Jake was an engineer from Earth. He was good at fixing machines, and that's why he was chosen for the mission. The mission was special. Earth had sent him to the planet Eloria to help fix the royal spaceship. Eloria was a beautiful planet, full of green forests, tall mountains, and strange blue rivers. The air smelled fresh and sweet. Jake had never seen a place like this before. When Jake arrived at the palace, he was amazed. The palace was huge and shiny, made of metal that looked like silver and glass that shone like stars. They were tall, towers and wide halls. But Jake was not here to see the palace. He was here to fix the royal ship. The ship was parked in a big hangar. It was unlike any ship Jake had seen. It looked alive, with smooth curves and lights that blinked softly. Jake started working on the engines. He liked machines that were hard to understand. It was a challenge. One day, while Jake was working late, he heard soft footsteps behind him. He turned around and saw a woman. She was tall and graceful, with long silver hair that glowed in the light. Her eyes were bright green, and she wore a blue dress that sparkled like the night sky. Jake froze. He had never seen anyone so beautiful. "You shouldn't be here," the woman said, her voice calm but serious. Jake quickly said, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you. I'm just fixing the ship." The woman looked at him carefully. "I am Princess Lyra, daughter of the Queen of Eloria." Jake bowed his head politely. "I'm Jake, from Earth. It's an honor to meet you, Princess." Lyra smiled gently. "You are working hard, I like that." For a moment they just looked at each other. Jake felt nervous, but also curious. He wanted to learn about her and her world. Then something strange happened. Lyra stepped closer and said, "There is a custom here that visitors must follow to show respect. It is an ancient ritual. I will teach you." Jake was surprised but nodded. "Okay, I want to learn." Lyra took his hand and led him to a small garden outside the hangar. The garden was full of glowing flowers and singing birds. The air was warm and peaceful. "This ritual is called the Bond of Trust," Lyra explained. "It shows that you come in peace and friendship." Jake listened carefully. Lyra began to chant softly in her language. Then she asked Jake to repeat after her. His voice was unsure, but he tried his best. Suddenly, the glowing flowers around them started to shine brighter. A soft light surrounded them. Jake felt a strange warmth inside his chest. The ritual was over, but Jake noticed something odd. Lyra's eyes looked different. They were shining with happiness and something else. "Hope. Thank you," she said. Quietly, "You are now part of our family." "Oh God." Jake smiled, feeling proud but still confused. He did not understand everything, but he knew this was important. The next day, Jake was called to the royal chamber. The queen wanted to meet him. He was nervous, but ready. In the grand room, the queen sat on her throne. She looked kind but serious. "Jake," she said, "you have done well in our land. But there is more to this visit than fixing ships." Jake was silent. He waited for her to explain. The queen continued, "Princess Lyra has told us about the bond of trust. It is more than a ritual, it is a promise that you will become the father of her child." Jake blinked in shock. "What? I didn't mean to." The queen smiled gently. "We know, but this is our way. The child will be a symbol of unity between our worlds. You and Lyra will be linked forever." Jake felt his heart race. He had never thought about becoming a father, especially not to an alien princess. But then he looked at the queen and saw the hope in her eyes. This was not just about him. It was about peace and friendship between Earth and Eloria. He took a deep breath. "I will do my best." Lyra entered the room and stood beside her mother. She smiled warmly at Jake. "I am happy," she said simply. "This is our future." Jake nodded. He was still scared, but also excited. His life was changing in ways he never imagined. Over the next days, Jake learned more about Elorian customs and his new role. He met scientists, diplomats, and even artists who showed him the beauty of their culture. Lyra was always near, teaching him, laughing with him, and sharing stories of her childhood. Jake felt something grow inside him, a connection deeper than friendship. One afternoon, while walking in the palace gardens, Jake asked Princess Lyra, "What is the hardest part for you in all this?" Lyra stopped and looked at the sky. "Future is unknown, but I believe in hope. Our child will bring two worlds together that is worth any risk." Jake smiled. "I want to believe that too." As the sun set over the glowing trees, Jake felt ready for the challenges ahead. He was no longer just an engineer from Earth. He was part of something bigger, a story of unity, hope, and unexpected joy. And though he hadn't meant for this to happen, he knew one thing for sure. He would never forget the day he met the alien princess and stepped into a new life. Jake woke up early the next morning. The soft light of Aloria's twin suns filled his room with a warm glow. Outside, he could hear the gentle hum of the palace waking up. Birds with colorful feathers sang sweet songs, and the fresh air smelled like flowers and rain. Jake stretched and got ready for the day. He knew today would be different. He was no longer just a visitor fixing a ship. He was now part of something bigger, a future that tied his life to Princess Lyra and the people of Aloria. When he met Lyra at breakfast, she smiled warmly. Her eyes sparkled with excitement. "Good morning, Jake. Today I will teach you more about our culture." Jake nodded. "I want to understand everything. It's important." Lyra took his hand gently and led him through the palace halls. Walls were covered with glowing paintings that moved like living stories. The floors felt soft under Jake's feet, like walking on moss. They walked quietly as if the palace itself was alive. "Here on Aloria," Lyra said, "we value family. Above all, it is not just about blood, but about trust, respect, and love." Jake listened carefully. On Earth, family was important too, but here it felt deeper, almost sacred. Lyra stopped in front of a large room with high windows that looked out over the forests. "This is the Hall of Ancestors," she said. "We come here to remember those who came before us. Their wisdom guides us." Inside the hall, there were statues and holograms of Alorian leaders, warriors, and healers. Their faces looked strong and kind. Jake felt a strange connection to these ancient figures. "Even though they were aliens, we believe that every child carries the hopes of the future," Lyra said softly. "Your child will be a symbol of peace between Earth and Aloria. That is why this union is sacred." Jake nodded slowly. "I want to be worthy of that trust." Over the next days, Jake attended meetings with the Alorian Council. They discussed plans for the future and how Earth and Aloria could work together. Jake was amazed at how much they cared about peace and friendship, but not everyone was happy. One morning, Jake walked in the palace gardens. A guard approached him quietly. "Sir, there are people outside who do not like this alliance," the guard said. "Some believe humans should not be involved with our princess." Jake frowned. "Why? What do they want?" The guard shook his head. "They fear change. They fear what your child might mean. There are those who want to keep Aloria pure and separate." Jake's heart sank. He had hoped his role would be simple: fix the ship, stay safe, help. But now he realized the future was complicated. That evening, Jake found Lyra in the garden, sitting beneath a large glowing tree. She looked peaceful but tired. He sat beside her. "Are you afraid?" Lyra smiled softly. "Sometimes. But I know. This is right. We must face fear with courage." Jake reached out and took her hand. "I want to help you. We can face this together." Lyra's smile grew brighter. "Thank you, Jake. That means a lot." The next day, Jake met with the royal scientists. They showed him new technologies and medicines from Aloria. Jake shared stories about Earth's machines and inventions. "We are different," Jake said, "but we can learn from each other." One scientist nodded. "That is why your child is important. A bridge between two worlds." As days passed, Jake and Lyra grew closer. They shared meals, stories, and dreams. Jake learned to speak some of Lyra's language. She learned some of his. One afternoon, Jake asked, "Princess, what do you want for our child?" Lyra looked at the sky. "I want them to grow strong and wise. to know both worlds and bring them together, to live with love and courage. Jake smiled. I want that too. The challenges were coming. One evening, while Jake was working in the hangar, an alarm sounded. Guards rushed past him. Jake followed and saw a crowd outside the palace gates. A group of angry Elorians shouted and held signs. They did not want the Alliance or the child. They called Jake a stranger, a threat. Jake felt fear and sadness. He did not want to cause pain. He wanted to help. Lyra appeared beside him. She raised her voice above the crowd. Please listen, she said. We must not be divided by fear. Our future is together. My child and Jake's child will be a symbol of hope. The crowd quieted a little. Some faces softened. Jake stepped forward. I am from Earth, yes, but I care for Eloria and its people. I want to build a future where we all live in peace. Slowly, the crowd's anger faded. Some began to nod, others to whisper. Lyra smiled at Jake. You did well. Jake felt relief and hope. That night, as they looked at the stars, Jake said, I never imagined my life would change so much. Lyra took his hand. Neither did I, but I believe this is the beginning of something beautiful. Edoran knew he was right. Together, they could face any challenge. And so, the story of Jake and Lyra, the human and the alien princess, continued a story of trust, courage, and the power of two worlds coming together. The days after the protests were tense but hopeful. Jake and Princess Lyra worked together to calm fears and build trust between the people of Eloria and the humans from Earth. But far beyond Eloria, in the dark corners of space, a new danger was rising. The rival empire of Zarkon had watched the alliance with growing anger. They saw Earth and Eloria's friendship as a threat to their power. The Zarkon rulers believed no human should ever join their enemies, and certainly no child should be born from such a union. Zarkon's warships were powerful and deadly. Their soldiers were trained for war and destruction. As the days passed, they prepared to strike. Back on Eloria, Jake could feel the tension growing. The peaceful planet was not ready for war. One morning, Jake was working in the palace hangar. When alarms suddenly blared throughout the building, red lights flashed, and soldiers rushed past him. What's happening? Jake asked a nearby guard. Zarkan ships have entered our system, the guard said, voice tense. They are preparing. To attack? Jake's heart pounded. He ran to find Lyra. He found her in the throne room, surrounded by advisors and soldiers. Her calm face showed strength, but Jake could see worry in her eyes. We must protect Eloria and our people, she said firmly. We will fight together with Earth's help. Jake nodded. I'm ready to do whatever it takes. Lyra smiled briefly. Good. We will need all the courage we have. The palace quickly became a center of defense. Engineers and soldiers worked side by side to prepare for the attack. Jake used his skills to help upgrade the ship's weapons and shields. As the Zarkon fleet approached, Jake trained with the palace guards. Though he was an engineer, he learned to use a laser rifle and basic combat moves. Lyra was also ready. She put on her ceremonial armor, which was light but strong, and held a plasma sword passed down through generations. We must lead by example, she told Jake. The people need to see their princess standing strong. Jake admired her bravery. You are amazing. Lyra smiled softly. And you are my partner. The day of the battle came quickly. Zarkon warships filled the sky, their dark shapes blocking out the twin suns. They fired missiles and energy blasts at the palace and the city below. Elorian and human defenders fought back fiercely. Jake was on the front lines, working with soldiers to defend key points. Despite their bravery, the Zarkon forces were strong. One of their warships aimed a massive beam at the palace. Lyra raised her sword and shouted, "Hold the line!" She led a group of warriors into the fray, moving with speed and skill. Jake followed, protecting her from attacks. As the battle raged, Jake saw the true spirit of Eloria. People from all walks of life fought with courage and hope. It was not just a battle for land, but for the future of two worlds. Suddenly, a powerful blast hit the ground near Jake. He was thrown back, but quickly got up. The blast had opened a hole in the city's defenses. Lyra was there beside him. "We have to close that gap," she said. Together they led a small team to push the enemies back. Jake used his knowledge of the city's layout to find secret tunnels and shortcuts. After a fierce fight, they sealed the breach. The enemy retreated, but the cost was high. Many defenders were injured. Jake looked at Lyra. "We can't give up. We have to protect our home for our child and for everyone." Lyra nodded. "We will win because we fight with heart, not just weapons." As the battle continued, Jake noticed something strange. The Zarkon forces were targeting the palace more and more. It was clear they wanted to capture or kill the royal family. "We must protect the queen and princess," Jake said urgently. Lyra agreed. "We will move them to a hidden safe place." That night, under the cover of darkness, Jake helped escort the queen and Lyra to a secret underground sanctuary. The tunnels were old but strong, filled with light and life. In the quiet safety of the sanctuary, the queen spoke softly. "Jake, your courage has saved us more than once. You are not just a visitor, you are family." Jake felt a warmth in his heart. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only want to help." Lyra took Jake's hand. "Together, we will protect our future." Days passed, and the battle continued above ground. Jake and Lyra stayed in the sanctuary, planning and helping where they could. One evening, Jake looked at Lyra. "I am scared. What if we lose?" Lyra smiled gently. "Fear is natural, but hope is stronger. We have each other." Suddenly the sanctuary shook. The ground trembled as a loud explosion echoed above. "The enemy has found us," a guard shouted. Jake and Lyra stood quickly. "We must defend the sanctuary," Lyra said. The attackers tried to break through the underground tunnels. Jake helped set up defenses, using his engineering skills to reinforce doors and set traps. The fight was intense. Jake used a plasma rifle to hold off enemies while Lyra fought with her sword. In the heat of battle, Jake saw a young soldier fall. He rushed to help him, pulling him to safety. "Thank you," the soldier gasped. "You fight like a true hero." Jake smiled, feeling stronger. This was more than a battle, it was a fight for survival and hope. After hours of fighting, the enemy retreated. The sanctuary was safe for now, exhausted but determined. Jake and Lyra sat together. "Our child will grow up in a world where two species stood together," Lyra said. Jake nodded. "And I will do everything to make sure that world is peaceful." Stars outside shone brightly, promising a future full of challenges, but also of hope. Jake knew this was just the beginning of their fight. But with Lyra by his side, he was ready. Together, they would face whatever came next. The battle had left Aloria wounded but not broken. The people looked to Princess Lyra and Jake for hope. The child they carried was more than a symbol. It was a promise of a better future. Yet the threat of Zarkon still loomed large, and the struggle for peace was far from over. In the quiet days after the attack, Jake and Lyra worked hard to rebuild trust among their people. The palace was busy with meetings, planning defenses, and caring for the injured. But beneath the surface, tensions ran high. Some Alorians still doubted the alliance. They whispered that a human father could never truly understand their ways. Some humans, too, worried about being so far from Earth and involved in alien conflicts. One afternoon, Jake walked through the marketplace with Lyra. The streets were filled with vendors selling glowing fruits and handmade crafts. Children played games that looked strange but fun. Despite the busy scene, Jake noticed some people staring. Whispers followed them. "The human and the princess," some said. "What will come of their child?" Lyra squeezed Jake's hand. "This is our challenge. To show them that love and trust are stronger than fear." Jake nodded. "We need to be patient and brave." Later that day, the royal council gathered. Jake and Lyra stood before the leaders, ready to speak. "We must unite," Lyra said, her voice clear and strong. "The threat of Zarkon is not over. They want to divide us. Together, we are stronger. Jake added, I will fight beside you and all of Eloria. This child, our child, will grow up knowing peace is worth fighting for. The council members looked at each other, then slowly nodded. Some smiled, inspired by the courage of the young couple, but not everyone was convinced. A council elder, a tall woman with silver hair, spoke. We respect your bravery, but trust is earned, not given. You must be careful, Lyra responded. We understand. We will work to earn your trust every day. That night, Jake and Lyra sat together in the palace garden. The twin moons shone softly above them. Do you ever doubt? Jake asked quietly. Lyra looked at him with honest eyes. Sometimes, but I believe in us. In the power of hope. Jake smiled. I feel the same. Their quiet moment was interrupted by a sudden message. The palace communicator beeped urgently. Jake answered. Jake here. A voice came through, tense and urgent. Zarkon forces are moving closer. They plan to attack again, this time with more ships and stronger weapons. Jake's heart raced. Less than 24 hours. Jake and Lyra looked at each other. The battle was coming again, bigger and more dangerous. They spent the night preparing. The palace became a hive of activity. Soldiers trained harder, engineers worked on new defenses, and the people prepared to protect their home. Jake took charge of the weapon systems, making sure everything was ready. Lyra inspired the warriors, reminding them of their courage. As the sun rose, the sky darkened with Zarkon warships. The peaceful planet was once again the battlefield. The fight was fierce. Explosions lit the sky. The ground shook with the force of blasts. Jake and Lyra fought side by side. Jake used his weapon skills to hold the line. Lyra led charges against the enemy, her sword flashing like lightning. During the battle, Jake spotted a group of young defenders trapped behind enemy lines. Without thinking, he charged to their rescue. Lyra followed. Fighting off attackers with fierce determination, they reached the group and helped them escape through a secret tunnel. When they were safe, Jake caught his breath. That was close, Lyra smiled. But we did it. Together. The battle raged on for hours. Many were hurt, but the defenders never gave up. Finally, the Zarkon fleet began to retreat. They had lost many ships and soldiers. The people of Eloria cheered, but Jake and Lyra knew the fight was not over. Zarkon would return, and the peace they wanted would take time. After the battle, Jake and Lyra visited the wounded. They comforted families and promised to protect their home. In the quiet moments, Jake thought about the future. Their child would grow up in a world that had faced darkness but chosen light. Lyra took his hand. We will build that future, one step at a time. Jake nodded. With trust and courage, the story of Jake and Lyra, the human and the alien princess, was not just about war. It was about hope, unity, and the strength to face challenges. Together, and with every sunrise, they knew their child would be a beacon for two worlds, shining bright and strong. Months passed since the last battle. Scars of war were healing, but the future was still uncertain. Jake and Lyra had grown closer than ever, bound by love, hope, and the promise of their child. The palace was full of life. Gardens bloomed. With alien flowers, children laughed in the halls, and peace slowly returned. Yet Jake knew their true test was just beginning. One morning, Jake stood by the balcony looking at the two suns rising side by side. Lyra joined him, her hand warm in his. Our child will be born soon, she said softly. Jake smiled. Can't wait to meet them. Lyra looked out at the horizon. This child is more than a symbol. They are the future. A future where Earth and Eloria live as one. Jake nodded. We will protect that future. Days turned into weeks, and Lyra's strength grew. She spent time with the healers, learning about Elorian care and traditions. Jake helped prepare the nursery with gifts from both worlds, soft blankets from Earth and glowing crystals from Eloria. One evening, as the palace settled into quiet, Lyra suddenly gasped. Jake was there in an instant. It's time, she whispered. The healers gathered quickly, and Jake held Lyra's hand. his heart pounding with both fear and joy. The birth was long and difficult, but the palace was filled with hope and light. Finally, a cry echoed through the room, the first sound of their child. Lyra smiled weakly, but happily. Jake looked down and saw a small, perfect baby. The child's eyes were a deep blue, shining with the stars of two worlds. "We did it," Jake said softly. The healers named the child Kalen, meaning bridge in the ancient Elorian tongue. As days passed, Jake and Lyra introduced Kalen to the world. The people of Eloria came to see the child who symbolized hope, peace, and unity. Even some of the doubters softened. They saw the child's innocence and felt a new kind of trust. But peace was fragile. One morning, a messenger arrived with urgent news. Zarkon forces were regrouping, planning a final massive attack to crush the Alliance once and for all. Jake and Lyra knew they had to act. They called the council and the leaders of Earth's fleet, working together to prepare defenses. But Jake also had a plan, one that was not about weapons or battles. He proposed a message of peace, a call for dialogue. "We must show Zarkon that war will not win," Jake said. "We must offer a chance for peace before more lives are lost," Lyra agreed. "It is risky, but it is worth trying." A small team, including Jake and Lyra, prepared a ship to deliver their message directly to Zerk, and as they traveled through space, Kalen slept peacefully in the care of trusted friends. When they arrived at Zarkon's stronghold, the leaders were suspicious, but agreed to hear the message. Jake spoke clearly. "We do not want war. We want to live together in peace. Our child is proof that two worlds can unite." Lyra added, "Your empire does not have to be our enemy. There is strength in friendship, not fear." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then, to their surprise, the Zarkon leader nodded slowly. "We will consider this. War has brought pain to us all." Jake and Lyra returned to Eloria with hope renewed. Back home, Kalen was growing strong and curious, learning about both worlds. Years passed. The alliance between Earth and Eloria flourished, inspiring other planets to join in peace. Jake, Lyra, and Kalen became symbols of a new era future, where differences were celebrated and unity was strength. Together, they showed the universe that love and hope could overcome even the greatest challenges. And so, a new dawn rose, not just for Eloria or Earth, but for all who dreamed of a better tomorrow.